get ready to throw down.
Let's get going. Welcome to the show, everybody. Today we are talking about DISC again, and we're talking very specifically around hiring, because especially in sales, it's super easy to look awesome on a resume, right? Especially if they have got that, hey, don't call my current employer because they don't know I'm looking kind of thing, right?
I'll be honest, that starts a whole other conversation of how do you not sound like a salesman on a resume when you're applying for a sales position? It's really easy to do. Like, win. I'm like, yeah, come on, man. Like, I need to know how you got through some downtime.
Absolutely. Yeah. But the whole point of this assessment, honestly, originally was to, I think, make hiring easier, right? I mean, I don't know the guy who created it, but I mean, that's kind of how I think about it.
I think it started off a long time with a lot of psychological evaluations. You send your, you do that. You give them a free exam. I can't remember.
An assessment? Is that the word you're looking for?
No, it was like it was an exam, like a psychological. You answered, 100 questions. They sent it to a clinical place, and they literally said, "Don't hire this person for that because the personality doesn't mix." And then there was a bunch of spinoffs after that, right? And some of them went really into the weeds, like DISC.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you say that, you say DISC went into the weeds?
I mean, just literally got into the breakdown of it all.
Okay, just broke it down better. Not in a negative sense, but actually got out there where it gets sticky and you're trying to decide, Yeah,
because it's like extrovert, introvert. Okay, great. But I'm
what
not
you're saying, the subculture to an extrovert or an introvert.
You're right. I am on that line, but there's a lot more to me than just that.
For sure, right? And you talk about this point all the time, right? You're only around a salesperson for a couple of hours, right? When you're the prospect, right? So when you're the hiring manager, right? And this person's nervous, right? They want to put on a good show. They want this job or else they wouldn't be there. You don't know if you're talking to interview Clint, regular Clint, like weekend Clint, and so
I'm probably a bad example.
Most of the time,
I think you get me.
In my world, here's what I've seen mostly is you're gonna have a certain feeling for the person who's interviewing. So if you're the interviewee, you're either coming in most of the time not being yourself, one way or the other.
Oh yeah,
you're either overcompensating one direction, right? Which is but it's very readable, right, to the other side. But
it's playing it cool.
But it has no meaning, right? I'm reading that you're being this way, but that's probably not who you really are, because you'd be a damn fool to be that way, because that's a little disruptive. Yeah. So you, as an employer, you start to try to pick and try to figure this out, and it gets confusing, is what I'm saying.
So you've hired a lot of people, Al.
Through for a small business or a medium-sized business.
Sure. Ballpark? No.
I have 22 employees now.
But like historically,
historically, I've carried 14. Well, as few as 6 a year, 6 to 7 a year.
That's an I answer.
Exactly.
172 to be exact.
Well, but I don't know after 25 years. I mean, but I will say I have the first employee I ever hired 20-something years, 25 years ago, and the second employee I hired is now retired.
And she's hated him every day.
That's not true. My staff loves me.
Good old Norma.
I just wanted to talk to the I at the table.
So
he's like, no,
I do. I love providing jobs, and they're part of my family, and we've hired their family. It hurts me to fire somebody. I often say I don't fire anybody; they fire themselves. But if I can find the right fit for my business, because I don't have a whole lot of latitudes or a lot of redundancy. I'm not like Clint, where I've got a staff of 10 or 12 salespeople, right?
Not anymore.
I have 1 or 2, and I'm part of that 1 or 2. And then I have ancillary staff, but there's very little redundancy. Everybody does a really key job. And I've said before, I'm about a $6 million company, right? Yeah. I'm not ashamed to say that.
I've worked for Al for 11 years. He's fired me 3 times.
That is not.
And here I am.
That is not. I knew that was somehow. How did I know when we opened this conversation, Nan was going to get that dig in?
Can't imagine.
Do these mics come off the stand so that way Nanette can just drop it on the table?
She literally do not quit again.
They do not come off the stands, guys. So please don't drop the mic.
There's our producer.
There he is.
Don't wreck the capital equipment.
They're rentals.
We're not a rock band. We cannot start beating up guitars and breaking shit. shit.
Well, we
right?
all know what personality he is.
He's a true businessman. Don't break the shit, right?
So we found Disc through like sales, right? And I didn't know anything about it. And honestly, whenever I was beginning to work with Jeff and he was like, okay, you got to go take a disc assessment, I was like, I don't need this to come in and work with you and sell with you and all this stuff. And he goes, if you don't do this, we're done. And it was such like a weird line because Jeff, right? And
He's
Jeff.
Sounds
very-
so relational.
He is
Very nice guy.
and Jeff a little bit, but like he's a super high I, right? So he can be more of an I than Al, right? Which is
Not possible.
kind of hard to fathom.
Mhm.
But for him to pick that line and draw that line in the sand is not normal for eyes, right? So I was like, fine, you're
But
mine,
wait a
let's go.
second. We're always calling you. Go and give us another code because we need
No, I know.
to
I
interview.
know.
And,
Now,
yeah,
yes.
I literally, we've had the last 2 hires we've had. And I say those 2 we hired, the others we chose not to, and we made the best choice because everybody took a disc assessment. And for the job we were looking for, those people made the most amount of sense.
Okay, so let's talk about that very specifically because I have a different opinion on this, right? Because I don't view the disc assessment as like a black or white tool, right? You either fit it or you don't.
No, but if you couple it with your personal interaction with that interviewee,
Sure.
okay,
yeah,
when you meet them
absolutely.
face to face, you hear their story, you ask the questions, they give you the feedback, then they take the disc assessment. It matches what what you think you know through your interview process.
So you're doing it as like a check and balance to make sure that you're getting the real deal in the interview?
The opposite.
Hold on, we'll
Yes,
get to that,
yes,
okay.
and no, because I know they're going to get outside of who they normally are. This shows me who they really are, and they correlate. Let me put it that way. So when I see somebody that's a lot of SC types that are in our industry, and when I know that that's balanced, it's usually a good fit for the positions we've thus far been looking for.
All right, so a couple of questions,
Mhm.
right? The last 2 roles that you hired for,
Mhm.
what were they specifically?
One is kind of admin for our radiology group.
Okay.
So they got to deal with everything from doctors' offices to attorneys' offices,
Okay.
insurance companies, that kind of position.
So did you have anything in mind about the kind of person you were looking for? Were you like, man, an S is going to be really good or a C is going to be really good or an I? Or were you just like, hey, I just want to see how closely this person that I've had a conversation with is to their true self? Or how'd you figure that out?
Both. I wanted somebody who, first of all, knew some of the parameters. So when we put out a request for applicants, it's usually this is the skill set that you need.
Mhm.
So they had to qualify that way and have some healthcare experience. And when they came in, I was looking for somebody that probably wasn't a D or an I. I was looking for somebody who was an S or a C because there's a level of interaction between very similar personalities, because that's what they're going to meet on the other end.
Yeah.
And they have to be dedicated to just the grind of the desk, the phone, and the office.
So they got to like repetitive things and kind of
That's gotta
enjoy
be their
process.
wheelhouse. Right.
Clint has got the squinted eyes of someone who spent many long days in the sun. And you said earlier that you think about it differently. How do you think about it?
Well, so for example, I think that depending on, first and foremost, like what's the technical experience that's required, right? If you're in the hiring process, do I have to have this checklist of experience and knowledge, right? That's kind of step one, right? Because you can't just hire any personality.
That's what, and
Right.
I reference it.
I disagree, but okay.
Well, yeah, so
We'll get there.
exactly.
Depending on how much time you
That's
have
what-
to train them
But
and
that's
what
what I'm
your
saying.
latitudes
And
are.
how process driven you are.
Exactly.
Yes. So that's why I say is how much do you need of the resume block stuff that's typical on there, right? The experience, the education. How much of that do you need? Because in my business, especially in sales, I'm hiring personality first, teaching the technical side later because I believe I can do that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So,
Absolutely.
and I would guess in sales, right, that personality to me really means everything, right? Can the customers trust you? Can they get along with you?
Yes.
But then there's a point, right? Can you convey the technical knowledge that they need you to convey to them, or have a solution in place to bring somebody into that conversation, right? And do it to a point where they still trust you, because that's a really tough, probably in your guys' business, right? Because you
Very
Trust is
similar.
everything.
You
Yeah.
can
Nan
It's
can
so
attest to that.
important.
Yeah. you guys could probably get anybody to set a lunch meeting and send a salesperson in there, but if they can't explain what you guys do on the technical side, especially in medical and surgery, there's no way, right? So, or the personality that you hire allows them to set that meeting up with you guys that have the technical experience to get there, right? So that personality all matters. So recently I'm hiring a position right now and interviewing currently actually. And
didn't you just lay waste to most of your sales force? Oh, wow.
But
like, I think I know why you're hiring.
But one
Clint
point
earned
that's
his nickname this week, I think.
right, but a really important point: you did not hire those people; they were already in place.
Yeah,
so that's a huge.
I
difference.
inherited everybody, and it had nothing to do with. But this person fills a need that they didn't.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm all about efficiency. This person, which we never had, right? And I can get rid
So
of.
it's a new position.
It is.
You didn't have anybody there. You kind of created the position. Now you're looking
to
for
fill a lot of voids.
unique individuals.
How did you go through the process of coming up with the requirements for the new position?
Well, that's where I'm getting to, right?
Okay.
So I literally went to our HR manager and I said, this position that I'm looking at hiring is not a resume. It's not on paper. It's a personality hire. And for HR, right?
How they wrap their mind
Right,
around that?
exactly. That's a tough thing, right? Because like you can't hire people on personality. I mean, that's the look on her face. Like,
And I do
I know.
kind of exclusively.
And I said, to be honest with you, that's why I'm talking to you, because I want to know the legalities of all of the. How do I do that, right? Without setting people aside based on whether I like them or not. Because right, this is an
good
issue.
point.
And we're still kind of working through that. So
she's not quite on board yet.
but what she made me do, which is the right thing to do, was made me put a job description together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So now,
look, John's got a hard on.
But the thing is,
well, here's the deal. I mean, when you don't know where you're going, any road works, right?
Mm-hmm.
And most people, if you're not doing some sort of assessment or something else along this, they see value with people that are like them, right? So Clint is going to. I know Clint talks about not getting along with other Ds, but he's going to see value in another D type personality. And left to their own devices, you hire people that are like you because you get along with them, and you're like, man, you're like me, I'm good, so I got to be able to trust you. And it
doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
And until somebody says, "Hey, I need you to do that," and you're like, "Oh no, we're the same."
So,
that kind of blows up quick. Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it's why I don't still work at a lot of places, and I work where I work currently. Right? Because I saw
you're
that
a
leadership.
VP.
But for every VP, there's a P.
Well, you're you're on the fast track to being a P, dude. You're not that old, right?
I agree with that, but the point of it is I still have to answer to somebody, and everybody answers to somebody.
Yeah.
So you have to fit. It doesn't matter how high up on the ladder you are.
Agreed.
You might make it all the way up there and realize this sucks. I'd rather go back because that guy at the top's a dickhead.
You don't know how I would like to be able to roll this thing back.
Sure.
Yeah, I hear that all the time.
So I'm
she made you go write a job description.
Write a job description. So now, like, if those qualities, right, are in the job description, well, then you're hiring on that basis, which is a very.
Can I ask a question? Mm-hmm. Is that job description like the bare minimum, or is that the wish list?
No, I go. Well, for this position in general, it's kind of a bare minimum.
It has to be
because you're not.
I don't think that people normally write job descriptions as far as like the requirements. You must have 5 years experience, and you must have this and this and this.
Good luck.
That's the golden applicant. When you find it.
And then the question is, though, my question would be: you have all of this, the golden ticket. Why are you unemployed?
Yeah, or why are you looking to move?
Yeah,
I mean, because
exactly. If you were there 15 years and you sold them out to come here and interview, how are you not going to do the same to me in a week or 10 years?
Particularly if
that's
they're
a level of skepticism.
Particularly
I don't even have,
if they're living at they're at a company. Like for me, if you worked for a bigger institution, man, I'm peanuts. Why would you want to work for me?
Yep.
Now there's quality of life issues and things that I can offer that big corporations can't.
So that level of skepticism is super important when you're hiring, right? Because you're going to get the truth. And here's the deal: that level of skepticism is also important when you're just in a sales role, right? So that way you don't get lied to or you get smiled and nodded at. Oh yeah, Clint, this is awesome. I can't wait to work with you, right?
Yep. So I got that.
So that level of skepticism was going to serve you in multiple areas. So if you don't have a healthy level of skepticism,
unemotion,
you're going to get lied to, right? A level of detachment, right? Yep. If we're going to use a Jocko term in there.
Yeah.
But I think that stuff is super important. So you created this thing, right? And it was the bare minimum.
Yeah, because in my mind, literally the job that I can do, and kind of joke about this, but like I can literally teach anybody to do this. I just can. Now, whether you're going to be really efficient at it or not, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Or like it,
wise,
or like it, or
love
and
whatever.
want to stick
That's
around.
on them.
Because that's
It
what
is.
I'm looking for
But
too.
that's the
I want somebody
personality
that's
side.
going to enjoy the job that I'm providing for them.
But that's the personality side. That's why you have to match these two together very
absolutely.
well, right? So I know that I can teach the technical side if you have basic computer skills, right? Those terms like basic computer skills, and I literally mean as basic as it comes, because I'm willing to put the training into whatever you don't have. There's a different side of it too.
That's important.
And so with this one, we talked about a personality, and she said, okay, she knows DISC, our HR manager. She's like, well, what personality? And I said, CD. I want a CD.
Wow.
For this position.
Is that easy to find?
Why?
Task driven, operate on their own, but also very, very data skilled, tracking, logging. But I also need them to confront customers and have hard conversations, right? So I don't know.
And
It sounds
you're
like
asking
you're
for a lot.
trying. No, he's asking for himself.
A little bit.
That
little
is
bit.
you.
No, a little
Because
bit.
you have a lot of data, which really surprises me. I mean, you can talk facts. You just described yourself.
Yeah, a little bit. And I really, and maybe that's why.
You need a mini me.
Yeah, and I literally put this in the description. Well, not in, but verbally, like, this is my right hand man.
Oh, well, there you
like
go.
I need that person.
So hold on,
So-
guys. Did you hear that?
It's
when,
gonna be-
when you know DISC and people start talking and you know who they are.
Yeah.
How quickly was it easy to decide? You're just you.
Yeah.
When I said you want you, and then you responded,
Literally,
I need a mini me.
That's right.
That's how this stuff works.
Yeah.
When you sort of, John's rolling his eyes. When he gave the description of what he was looking
Yeah.
for,
No. I'm not rolling my eyes at you. I'm just trying to think about if I agree with the fact that your right hand person should be the same.
no, I disagree.
same
I agree
disc.
with where you're rolling
Because
your eyes.
I have
that
a point
point-
to that.
At that point, you're creating a redundancy.
Yeah, sure.
Right. I don't need anyone else
You
to
need
do
some
the
outside
to do
of
the
that.
stuff that I'm strong
But
at.
but because of your size, right? But
You
at
actually
his
need a gap.
size,
That's true. Okay.
But you
that's fair.
actually-
because he's working on scalability.
Yeah. Okay.
But also at the same point, like I need a gap filler. So to this point,
Scalability.
right, is like
Yeah.
if I hire a me, we're both really going to do well at the same things. Well, I don't need the same things.
How
I
do
need
you
the
handle
gap.
you? Right. Because
It'd be tough, right?
we all talk about the fact of like D's
but
are
motivate, win,
Well,
win. Like
but-
those are the words, though, right?
but I think D's get a bad rap in general.
Oh, yeah,
in
terribly.
general,
Because
right?
they usually deserve it.
But here's the deal.
Ignorant ones do, yeah, and
Right,
so do
exactly.
ignorant eyes.
But here's the deal. I don't ever have
How
to.
dare you? That hurt, man. I thought we were friends.
No,
I don't ever. I don't ever have to deal with a D lying to me. Right. I don't ever have to deal with
Yes,
a D
you
smiling,
do.
nodding. No.
They will justify everything.
doing it right now.
Do you really?
Yes.
Why do you?
Do you? But do you smile and nod with when someone comes into your office
Better
as a vendor?
than most.
Better than most.
I at least feel guilty. He like calls it
no.
like winning.
No, I know what you're
John,
saying.
you're not that naive.
No, I'm that good. I will say that.
Yeah.
Right. Because
To
I'm
read
gonna cut through all of this BS that he's going to run on everybody else because
Yeah.
my walls are up and my
No,
skepticism
I get
is
that.
high.
I get that. But
Right?
when you say
Yeah.
that, you completely tongue in cheek understand who this guy
Sure,
is over
exactly
here.
right. Clint
Liar, thief,
Clint is an aware.
Where's
D,
my wallet?
right?
bandit.
Which makes
Mhm.
it
Yep.
harder to deal with him, right? Because
Right.
he's understanding about personalities. The average D is not,
Yeah.
right? So the average D is going to be
He's
Gonna
absolutely
walk right
honest
into.
because they can't help themselves.
That's
First
it.
of all, they
You're
have no
right.
tact. They've got no remorse.
I use that same game on a D as well.
Absolutely. So the unaware D, with the amount of work that I put in, I'm going to get clarity, right? Either it's a no, or
And
we're
he's
gonna
gonna wanna
we're
give
move
it to
forward.
you,
Absolutely.
right?
He can't wait to give
Exactly.
it to me.
There's
There you go.
nobody easier to negative flip a script on,
Yeah.
right? Than that
Oh,
personality.
for sure. Well,
For example,
maybe
right?
C's because
For
C's
example.
can't deal with things being wrong. So
you spot a D that's money hungry, right? You
Yeah.
talk about his bank account being low.
Well, we
Well,
talked
or
earlier.
you ask a C, how do you know this is right?
oh yeah, I got it.
Now, are you sure what you're saying makes sense? And tell me how that adds up, right?
See, when you say that to me, oh man, that's a bad day for you, right? Because the thing is when you're dealing with a C, you have to assume that they've already done the research.
Agreed.
Right?
So I want you to justify
So
your
when
research.
you challenge me like that,
Yeah. Do I put you on the defensive, or
Yeah.
am I really?
Yeah, it brings
Because I
our
don't
walls
mean
up,
to. Because
sure.
a lot of times I try to just be stupid,
Well,
and I
that's what
say,
Glenn said about.
And here's the deal. That
It's the same
works, right? When you show up and you're like, when
"I
you're like,
don't
hey,
understand this."
have you ran the numbers on that? I'm going to be like, yeah, here it is. Let me show it to you. This is what I need. Can you do it or not?
Yeah.
But when you like blatantly challenge me of like, are you sure you're correct on that? Screw this guy.
No, I guess I misspoke because a lot of times I'm like, I don't understand this, and then
Yeah.
you go into
That's fine.
overdrive to
That's
give
totally
me all
fine.
the.
That cues me up, and like it's like putting the magic dollar in the jukebox and you get unlimited plays, right? I'm gonna give you all the facts and all the data you need to like sell me, right? Because that's how
So-
C's work.
I'm our controller in my company. I know you're not listening to this, so I'm not worried about it. But
Oh no.
but
my
in most
gosh.
of our meetings, it's funny because it's like when I need information out of him, if I just like, hey, I need you to give me this, it walls up like, hey, screw you, buddy. Like you didn't plan or prep this or give me
Right.
a schedule.
Well-
Do you have any data on this?
right.
Oh,
Well, no,
Why-
wait.
His
a second.
question to me is, why do you need that?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
well, because
That's
I'm
a
trying
John
to,
question.
My office manager's same way. I ask her a question and she's like, "Well, I'm not sure. I need to check on that." I'm like, "You just opened the mail. How much is the deposit?" And she's like, "Well, I don't know for sure. Let me go check." And why do you need to know that today? There's enough money in the
Yeah.
bank for everything we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, shut up and get back in the field.
In your admin, we were kind of going back and forth because you had an opinion about what she was, and Ned had an opinion about what she was, and I had an opinion. Where did she end up? I forgot.
She's a CS,
A
right?
CS.
She,
Okay.
She
Yeah.
slides.
No way.
She's
Yeah,
a C
I
who
know.
slides to the S to save everybody, because what happens is she runs all the
So we're talking
data,
about
gets upset with me that about numbers,
Yeah.
but
and
then
process.
says, "Wait a second, my compassion says here's how we work this out." Because I go nutso and I start saying,
So let me finish. what
Sure,
I was-
yeah, go ahead, sorry.
So hiring earlier, I want to get this off. So we were talking about the gap filler.
Yeah.
So
"You're mini me."
so I interviewed a CD to a T,
How'd it go?
and in the meeting, in the exactly how a interview should go, very to the point, very answered all the questions perfectly.
That's
Had it prepped.
That's your interview.
And I
That's
was
not
like-
that's not Al's interview.
No, I'm saying this person,
Mine are pretty good.
but this personality was on point. Done homework. I looked up your company and I saw that they do this and blah blah. And I think I'd be a really good fit. It was very very formal. And
How did you play it as the D who likes to like lead the way? Did
I
you
played?
kinda,
I was an I.
Oh,
I put
interesting.
myself in an I, trying to
Okay.
draw it out, right? Just
I
to
can't
call
So
even
it
you
see
bullshit.
doing
got drunk
that.
before the interview?
I was gonna say.
That's
drunk
not
it.
what management should
I
be
got-
doing. Okay, so you
Why
did.
did I get
That's
the
why you're
management?
management. That was on cue. That's why you're
Oh,
management.
wait a minute. I'm in management. I can't drink. I might as well go back to producing.
Exactly. If I can't live the bohemian lifestyle, F that, man. I'm quitting.
I want to see you
quit.
do 2 minutes of an eye. Would
What?
love to know.
You
Oh,
see
he does it all the time.
You see it all the
We
time.
were in the
You
back
see it all the
in
time.
in the producer's
Well, it'd be more
office
funny as if
watching
I did
videos.
2 minutes of you.
Oh yeah.
You couldn't.
I think we'd all be uncomfortable.
So I had my second.
We should do that for a show. We should all sit in different seats and try to be the other people. That would be
It would be funny.
hilarious.
Oh, I could do that.
Nobody would watch
Nan gets to be Clint.
Deal. I
oh.
could do that.
Who gets to be
I could-
John,
I
though?
could do
There's the
that.
hard one
I
right
could
there.
do
You.
Me,
I'm
I think I could be John.
it. You think you could be me?
Oh,
Could you
Barely.
be an eye?
Barely.
So-
I think I
I
could.
present as an I, right?
I could.
I talk to people who have listened to the show and they're like, "You're not a C," and I'm
Yeah.
like, "You haven't seen me stressed out."
Yeah.
Because that's the deal.
That's
When we're under stress, all these true traits show up.
Mhm.
I mean, when we're not in stress environments, it's super easy to flex, right? Once you know what you're doing and you've got some utility and some reps under your belt. But like when I'm stressed out, like I gotta go apologize to everybody, right? Like I go to my family. I'm like, "Hey, I'm stressed out. I'm in task mode. If I'm short, it's not at you. Don't ask me about it again."
How much apologizing does Clint do?
None.
0.
Ever.
He's not ever.
If you don't like it, you can leave.
Literally.
Nan, how much apologizing do you do?
So I could definitely be. I'm not answering you. I could be a D. I could
You
do
could?
it. Yeah.
You
I
can do it?
I could
Show
do
me
it.
your best D face.
No.
Do
Hold
a
on.
D.
This is. We'll talk about doing this
are
as
we doing
another
this
show.
wrong?
Can
Is
we?
this wrong?
Can
yes,
we,
yes. We can
focus
stay on that. Look,
on-
John's
Thank you,
stressing.
thank
It's
you,
making me
John.
uncomfortable
It's
right
Friday
now,
the
guys.
13th,
Thank you.
man.
I
Exactly.
appreciate it.
So
We should
I
have done it today on Friday the 13th. That would have been awesome.
so
I would rock that vest so hard. I'd look amazing in it.
I love best.
because your arms are always so warm and your torso's cold.
I don't get. I don't, look,
When is that
I don't,
ever the
I don't
thing?
get. I don't get so much. I don't get so much cold here or here. Right in here.
You're just dying in the court where all the real ATP production's going on.
If
All-
you're not
all the- all-
okay, hold on. If you're not watching this on YouTube, Clint is wearing one of these like vests that
I
like
love
all
it
the
though.
all the
Not like a gay leather vest. This
No,
is like
What's
a
wrong with
good-
being gay?
Oh my
We're not
goodness.
talking about
Did
the
you just
fringe.
alienate a
Oh,
big
good.
portion of our population?
we're not talking about the
We're
fringe
sorry.
hanging
We
off the
can't
back of
keep
this
up with
thing.
it.
Get over it. That's
like
what
a,
you are.
It's like a Patagonia North Face style vest, right? That's very like hip and trendy, and you know, it doesn't really
It's
make a lot of
trendy.
sense. But your torso's never cold, bro. Come on, what are you doing?
You should just wear sleeves and
Exactly.
no torso.
It would make
No,
more
new
sense.
fashion.
Absolutely.
New fashion statement. I
Right?
just sleeved.
Yeah,
All right.
dude, runway
I
I'm
would-
not taking
in Milan next
fashion
time.
advice from any of you. Sandwiches.
I would like to see the
Dan's the
vest
most
without
fashion.
the vest without the shirt. That's what I would like to see.
Wow, it is
do you
Friday
mean-
evening.
Do you mean Saturdays for Clint? 'Cause-
I got assless chaps too.
Gay cowboy, here we
We'll
come.
be singing
he
YMCA
does
in no
have his
time.
cowboy hat tonight.
Hold
Man.
on. YMCA. Let's do it.
no,
No,
Oh.
that's terrible.
no.
You guys
That's
are-
the eye right there. That
Trying to
eye
create a-
needed it so bad.
Trying to create a party when there's nothing to do.
Exactly. and
Sip on
inviting
my beverage.
everybody to it and just assuming that it's going to
They're
be
coming.
cool.
They're coming.
Yeah.
I told you.
Hey, it's not even my house. It's not my party, but you should come. It's going to be great.
Stop the madness. I throw a great party, guys. These bitches don't even understand because they're never invited.
That's true.
Nor will they be.
We're just
Right, so
Keep
let's
it
get-
up. Keep
so
it
let's
up.
get back to hiring, right? We were talking about you were looking for your right-hand person.
So
You're working with your HR person.
my rule of thumb is that if I'm hiring a personality, I need to get to know them outside of work first.
So did you just go straight to Hooters?
Are you serious? You got to go hang with them before you hire?
I mean, it worked out that I could do this.
Oh, okay.
Right. We had connections. Our kids went to school together, and I said, hey,
And I get that a
So-
little bit because I do that with some of the
Right.
licensed people.
and so I said, hey, let's just go out and have just a typical conversation of what I'm thinking and what how you would gel there. And the conversation went great.
Were they okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And then
Who picked up the tab?
I did, of course.
Of course
Thank
he
you.
did. Come
Well,
on.
I knew. I was just saying, hey guys, listen. Hold on, we're teaching as we go along.
That's fair.
You throw your credit card
The
when you.
rule of reciprocity is such an important thing in these
Well,
kinds
we
of
need
situations.
to
and
have
networking and
an
everything
episode
else.
on reciprocity
Yeah.
Sales
and
etiquette.
sales etiquette, right?
Yeah,
Right.
that's for sure.
So anyway, matched well there, right? Like
Mhm.
same ideas, which is to the point of like, well, of course we
okay,
do, right?
so hold on. So let's dig into that a little bit. You said that you matched well. How do you determine that?
It was just like, I say something that's like absolutely, like you could see the
Okay.
heartfelt answers, right? And then they would say something, and I would say, oh, exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You get it.
I order Salisbury steak. You order Salisbury steak. Wow, how about those mushrooms, man?
or-
or-
gravy,
Or you,
No
that little
gravy.
sweet brown gravy.
Or you
Just-
say-
Salisbury.
or you say, oh, steak, huh? That's trash. I got fish. Because that's
yeah,
that's kinda in my wheelhouse, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like-
Oh, yeah.
Gotta one up.
yeah,
Clint's got to win, baby.
exactly.
Gotta
so,
win.
So
Oh,
anyway,
and you got the fish. I got the fish with. I got
Yeah.
the fish with the shrimp.
so I actually got the best fish.
I was gonna say they
You-
didn't say the best because then
Where'd
it's the worst.
you get that one?
You ordered off the menu. I went with the daily special.
I actually caught mine.
Brought
And
it in the back door
and
along
it
with
was-
the
it
wine
was
you're
this
drinking. Exactly.
So anyway, then I have a formal interview after this meeting. Also went great.
So you have wait. Hold on.
Wait a
Hold
second,
on.
that threw
You-
me too.
You have the informal meeting first, and then you have a formal.
That's
You don't
why-
think you're setting yourself up for failure doing it
I was
that
gonna.
way?
Did HR know about this?
No.
Okay,
Oh,
that's what I thought.
You're off the grid.
That's
Yeah.
There's nothing
silly.
wrong. I
No,
wouldn't
there's nothing
think-
wrong with that. It was
The
informal.
court.
Clint's a lone wolf, man.
So
Wow.
look, the deal
That's
was
rogue as hell.
the deal was like okay,
The deal is you're off the rails.
fuck. But
Hey,
to that,
he's a maverick.
No, but I don't disagree with it. I'm just saying, how do you
Yeah.
get away with that? Because that
Well, if
most
you're
I would
people-
go the other
well,
way.
I'm not
I'd want the
now.
formal. I'd want the
You're
formal
busted.
first.
Bitch. Huh?
And if you're
I'd want
hiring
the
a,
formal first.
I know that you would.
yeah.
I mean, but seriously, I know that's how most people also.
So why'd you go that route?
Because I wanted to see if it would mesh, like personality wise, right? Because I'm just not going to get that in a formal setting, in
Well-
an interview room. And to the whole point of this conversation I'm hiring for personality reasons. I want to mesh that personality. So, for example, if we're out to a lunch and the waiter doesn't bring back the right food, how do you react to that? Right? I want to see that. I just do.
How do you react to that?
I'm just gonna eat this shit because
Yeah,
I don't want to because
I don't want to be
send it back.
I don't
No.
send anything
I send it
back
back.
unless
Because-
it's spoiled.
Let me
If
tell
it's
you
not
why.
right, I make it right just on the plate. I scrape it off.
We're answering the same thing for very different reasons. Because you already screwed up once, I'm not going to trust you again. And honestly, I don't ever want to see your face again. So I'm going to eat this shit and probably give you a bigger a tip just to throw it in your face and walk out.
Whereas, why do you think Al doesn't do it? You said for two different reasons. Do you think it's because like he wants to be liked by
Avoid
the server?
confrontation.
Yeah.
Oh no, I call them out all the time.
Well, you
I'm
do.
like,
You personally.
oh,
do.
you guys seen me order
But not-
before. I'm like, really? Did you think that was what was going on here?
But not.
I mean, I challenge them that way more than I'm like, I can eat anything.
But see, that's the thing about a nine, right? Is I can tell you to go screw yourself, and you'll smile at me and be like, "Yeah, you're right. I probably should." That's an eye's
Yeah.
natural ability to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So
And
Right.
when I'm really frisky, you get fucked on the tip.
yeah.
Weren't you a bellman?
I said when
Exactly.
I'm really frisky, that happens once a year. And if it does, sorry to be you. But most people get tipped really well because I was a bellman. Yes.
Yeah.
So I know quite a bit about disc. Everybody up here knows
Sure.
a lot about it, right? We're probably not professionals at it.
Wait a
You
second,
know, as
we are.
best we could. Yeah.
This is why we have the podcast.
Maybe.
There are
Seriously?
probably some
We're,
psychologists. who
we're
know better than
probably
we do.
not at that level, right? To go beyond.
We are.
Okay.
Hey, there's
I
only
agree.
one person at this table with doctor in front of their name,
Well,
and
but
he's a
wait a second.
chiropractor.
This
so
guy's
he's
been,
gotta be
had
awesome.
his head shot at, right? I mean, I've paid my dues. Nanette has rocked the sales world for as long as I've remembered her, and you know more crap that means nothing to me than anybody else I know. Who else
What a
sits in
compliment.
each one of these
Thank you.
corners?
I'm gonna
as
sleep
well?
so well tonight.
Just like,
I don't
I
think
know
I got
so much
that
complimented.
was
crap.
so warm and fuzzy. Mhm.
I know so much crap, guys.
So the thing is that I wanted that because I thought it matched well for that job, right? And then what I was going to say is that I feel like I know disc pretty well, and I know that there's different areas. Some D's have S traits, and
Yeah, absolutely.
a D and an I, you have your secondary personality, right?
Right.
And then with an interview, it's always weird.
Yep.
Wonka.
But-
yeah, it's always off
But
anyway.
to the point, right, is when you really get a true look at somebody's in an uncomfortable, stressful situation. And an interview usually is that, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not stressed out about that, that tells you that you fall in another category all in itself, right?
Absolutely.
So what I was going to say there is that I forgot that you could slide opposite directions across the spectrum. Those exist.
What do you mean opposite?
A C and an I, a D and an
Okay.
S, right?
Okay.
Because people can be their primary and secondary. It's not often. It's pretty rare, but it happens, right?
Well, but I think under stress, what you try to do is emulate or appease, right? So you're there needing a job. You've got bills to pay. You're trying to reach to figure out what I want as the employer or the person interviewing.
All the assumptions.
And most of the time it's, I need to not be me because we're self-loathing, right? We kind of beat ourselves up about things that are really our strengths. And we do more to hurt ourselves. So we want to project what we think that person is, and we usually match that to what we think we're not, right?
Mhm.
So we try to pretend to be somebody we're not to appease somebody, right? That we're trying to, get this
that's fair.
equation.
Yeah.
Not rocket science.
So what happens now? Do they come in and interview with HR as a final, or are you?
no, I'm still interviewing. So
At the bar or back at the office?
come on.
I'm confused.
That's what I was
is there a
gonna
round
say.
of each? Like,
you
how
cannot
do you do this?
that with a bunch
Yes, he
of people.
can. He's the VP.
No.
VPs do whatever the
Have you
hell they
seen how
want
much
to.
he drinks? He can hang out at bars for
No,
hours.
I'm saying you have to choose
Well, so
like
here,
5. I
so-
can't imagine you're going to have 20 people. You're going to.
So the second, yeah, well,
Oh, so you did this multiple times?
That's what. Why
So
did
there-
I get
Sorry,
that
I'm
wrong?
slow.
Oh my
I'm
God.
slow on
so
It's like, what the-
a person in our company actually recommended somebody, heard I was hiring this position, and said, "Hey, I actually know somebody that's perfect for you." And I kind of laughed, and I'm like, "Well, how do you know?" That
Yeah.
D in me kind of
Already, you're like,
Yeah.
screw
Whatever.
you. I'm
I
not
hate
hiring
the-
your
I
It's
like
person.
this
almost
person.
as the
Yeah.
best. Yeah.
And so anyway, like a week went by, and he came back, and he was like, "Hey, did you ever look over that resume?" I'm like, "Oh, that's probably on my desk over there somewhere. I'll get to it." But you're right. Like my walls go up.
Yeah.
I'm attacked because you gave me this.
Yeah.
Get out of jail.
And it's
free
never
card.
as good as the person you're going to find.
Right. So anyway, after he leaves, I'm like, you know what? I should look at this. And so I look at it, I'm like, oh, shit. tons of experience in this field. Exactly.
Kinda
Like
fits it,
experience
yeah.
on resume. This is a perfect find. So I'm like, all right, well, I got to do my due diligence and let's get through this. So I'm still got my walls up a little bit.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
When you're looking at the resume, are you getting any feel for their disc?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what did you think that they were?
So right off the bat, I said D,
Okay.
DI.
Were they a DI?
What was their opening statement? Did they
it was
tell
a-
you
it was
how
like
good
a-
they were at something?
No, it was no,
No, they do. I've seen those resumes.
It was
Amazing at.
Objective to get a job.
so it was very.
Objectives are stupid on resumes, in my opinion.
I believe this person's was very task driven, like
Okay.
I believe statements, right? So that puts it in one. If you're talking to somebody, that puts it in a category which would typically be on paper. That's a commitment, right? And that falls back to the D of confidence, right?
Well, gut driven,
Gut-
right?
yeah,
I believe.
Like I believe I
Yeah.
can do whatever
I
the
don't
hell
need
you.
facts.
yeah,
I didn't do these
right.
things, but I believe that I can,
Yep.
kind of thing.
It's not the believing as like hopes and dreams believe. It's the belief that I have this inner fortitude to do this job.
Sure.
So anyway, right off the bat, like screams D, like okay. And then there's I don't know, I'll call it a playful format. That's not very. It's not formal. It's
Yeah.
not. It's
And-
kind of.
And D's don't really do that.
Nope, absolutely not. And C's definitely don't.
No,
You know,
not at all.
so-
We're not funny.
So like but this is
Our producer is like furiously shaking his head about the fact I'm not funny.
Yeah.
So, although I'm the funniest guy he knows.
so the funny
continue.
thing is like instantly in my head I think this is a DI, right? And so anyway, bring her in. I'm like, hey, just hey, call your friend, tell her Monday at 2:00. Let's just talk to her. So she comes in and instantly she's like, hey, I looked you up, saw that you had a podcast, see that you guys talk about disc a lot. I actually have my disc personality.
Get out of here.
right then, right there.
Get out of here.
And you were
Dropped
like-
it like
you were
on
like-
you.
Here's all the money.
No,
You can
no.
just have all of it. Like,
No, because I still walls are up. Right? Like,
What? That was fantastic.
So she, oh yeah, it was. So I look at it and I'm like, this isn't you. I've talked to you 2 minutes, but this isn't right. This isn't you. This says you are.
Oh.
But John, I was right. This girl's an IC all day long.
How
What?
do you know that when you're looking at her assessment? Because here's the deal: a good disc assessment is really hard to
It
game.
wasn't a good one.
Is one of the free ones?
Oh.
Okay, well that's fair.
And I said that they can only put you on one side. They didn't
Okay.
go deep enough. And I explained it to her. We were 45 minutes in a conference room. We talked
Wow.
mostly about this personality assessment.
So when she pulls that out, do you have a moment of like excitement of like, yeah, I got it, or
No.
or does that D mentality of like, no, I know what you
I think
was-
I'm feeling gamed at that point.
That's it. Why are you gaming me?
Really?
Exactly.
Like
You're-
you went
But
up.
hold on, but there's a certain level of appreciation
There's a little
that you
respect there.
came sort of trying to game.
Sure.
All right, maybe this will work.
So
but
the
we got
test
some
of it-
more questions.
The test
Okay.
of it will be,
Yeah.
if she's truly interested in what I was talking
Yeah.
about.
Right.
Will she listen to this?
Very
Yeah.
Right? That's an interesting
Mm,
point.
Mhm.
But by the time the interview is over, and I said, look, I'd really before you ever thought about getting on here, you're doing a disc assessment, just so you know, like a really in-depth one. And she's like, oh, I'm all for that. I'd love to know more about myself. And that was
And
that
of
was
course
a,
you're like, yeah, okay,
that's a high
awesome.
point.
Well, hold on,
right?
but wait a second. Was that a kiss your ass?
it wasn't. It was a genuine.
Or did you
it
feel
really
that
was.
that was genuine? Because
Very
I would
genuine.
say the same thing.
Very genuine.
Oh, thank you, sir, for beating me up on
Because-
on the one I presented. I so want to learn more
It
about
wasn't
the
that.
bullshit
I
you
can't
need
wait
to
to
know.
do this.
It was a
'Cause-
very genuine comment to she gets the reasons why we do this in this industry, right?
Sure.
In sales, the personality is not just important for everybody else to get along with me; it's to understand myself. And she did that very genuine.
Okay.
And I was like, dang, okay, well, this is going to be part of it. But I'm telling you, you're an IC. She's like, well, is that even?
IC?
Yep, I'm telling
God,
you,
that's
man.
a random.
But it's perfect. And when I was done interviewing her, I switched my whole mentality of I've got to have an I in there, and I have to have C in there. And-
Wow, man.
I mean, if there's any kind of account management, then throwing an I
to a C.
is going to be pretty legit because eyes don't meet strangers, right? Like everyone's their best friend. They're going to have really good, rapport and trust.
The way
and
this
else.
person talked about getting to know customers and gaining trust and being a salesperson, and then also talk about how to track all of that data in the same conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't find that. Very
you
often.
don't. I was
Yeah.
just saying that's unique. as
And-
hell.
Yeah. It's a very unique
Yeah.
mix, right? Because like I'm a CD who presents as an I at work, right?
Mm.
But I'm not naturally a CI, right? Because on the weekends I don't really want to go out and socialize because I've exhausted all those batteries throughout the week doing all the networking and all the stuff that I do. That's really interesting. So what's your next step with this person?
So to be honest with you, I kind of have my mind made up, right?
So you're already game on with this person.
I am. Timing's not right, so I'm waiting for my own organization to
for sure.
kind of let's fit this person in here.
Can I ask you kind of and you can say none of your business. What are you paying this person?
Good thing you gave him
what kind of
permission.
salary does this job? Yeah, you can ballpark it. You can give me a range. What is this person going to make?
So let me. I
And
can't.
if it's tough,
So I can't answer this question, but what I will tell you is this: it is lower than 6 figures, but it's at the upper echelon of that.
Okay. And is
5
there
figures.
Whoa,
is
that's
there potential to?
that's a lot higher than I was expecting.
That's higher than I
Yeah.
thought it was too. To be
I was
honest
thinking
with
like 30 to 40.
you. I was
range.
thinking 50
Oh,
to
really?
60.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a and plus that I'm also incorporating in the description of can add commissions if you.
I was just saying, is there some
steps.
they can take some
So-
money off the
so-
table as well.
So
Genuine question, because I'm genuinely curious. What makes this right? Because when I hear what you said, close to 6 figures, right? I'm thinking 75, right? And so, what makes this a 75 versus a $40,000 spot for you specifically?
because I get to comb through people a little bit more to justify why I hired this person. Because if I put the lower end there, which it could be,
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna get the lower end people, and people are gonna, in my organization, leadership decision wise, they're gonna say jump that person because it can save us a dime. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So-
no, they'll
Well,
If
rate-
I'm hearing you correctly, you're very much. There's a book called Good to Great, and I cannot remember what the author's name is, but we'll put it in the show notes. And it talks about having the right people in the right seats on the bus to get to where you want to go.
I think that I'm not developing a team because I have a need to fill. I'm developing a team that I can grow.
Yeah.
Over a 5-year plan.
Good
with.
for you.
So,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't think that most these, and man, I try very hard not to disparage D's, right? Because I've got a lot in common with D personality types, and C's,
self-awareness, buddy.
C's, when they're really confident in what they do, they look like D's, right? I've had a lot of people,
I agree.
especially in the martial arts, school, right, where I'm really confident and I know my stuff.
Can I tell you the difference? To be honest with you, I know the difference.
What is
And
it?
The ability to continually fight, even though you know you're wrong, slides to the D.
Oh,
Whereas
for
the
sure.
C will stop.
Yeah,
I was going to say, because
I
you
will.
will stop a chokehold, he'll kill the person.
yeah.
And you
kill
don't have the
myself trying.
benevolence to say, have you learned your lesson?
Whoa.
I
He
think about-
says, you shouldn't have challenged me. Here's your lesson. You
Yeah.
go to the grave.
I think about it as like I have a lot of opinions, but they're loosely held whenever you show up with like facts. And I'm willing to give up my facts and make a change when you present data. Don't bring opinions or like how you feel about it, because like that doesn't resolve with me at all. But I'm capable of changing my mind. Whereas I think that whenever Clint, I don't know if this is derogatory or not, but Clint can be like a dog with a bone, and sometimes, right? Like it's my way's the highway and I don't care,
There's
Am
a
I
way.
wrong there?
There is a way to present that to you, and it's I call it the prove me wrong theory.
That's fair. Yeah.
So I can
Well,
absolutely.
You sound like you have the same.
A little bit.
But-
yeah,
but
for
so,
sure.
So I can corner a C that is like, you're not getting past this wall without the data, right? I can say, okay, well, I have some opinions and I have some things I think is right, and frankly,
You're like, I peed on a wall.
but the
once.
thing is like in a leadership position, it's like, frankly, I think I'm right, so prove me wrong, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
And to a C, you're like, challenge accepted.
But he
my
said
wisdom.
the same thing. Show me your
Yeah.
data.
And-
I'll show
and the
you
thing-
mine.
And here's the thing: is prove me.
It's like a poker game. I'm all in.
Here's my thing. This is and I've been running this probably for about 6 or 7 months with the new team, like
Mhm.
getting involved with my new company. Is prove me wrong, and if you do, we all win.
Absolutely.
Agree. Oh,
Yeah,
I
for
love.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so.
I
true.
think everybody at this table will accept the fact that we understand our personalities and the weaknesses that they present, and if you can challenge us to who we are, we'll concede. Yeah, you won the game.
That's
I talk about this all the time because I think this is super important. C's are typically there's not a lot of ego there, right? So when they come across as being like super ego driven and really tied to something, it's because they've done research and they've got numbers and facts and everything else, you know. And so it's kind of like I just finished this book. It's called Range, and I can't remember the name of the author. I'm terrible with authors tonight, but it talks about this sign that they hang up in NASA, right? In God we trust. Everyone else bring data.
Yeah,
and that's how I view kind of everything. If you don't have data, I don't believe you.
And this drives the point home that even as an I appreciate data. I don't go collect it, but I read it and I understand it. And when I need to speak with some kind of authority, because I go in and sell off of technical data,
sure,
I will pick up the phone and talk to the technician, the guy who developed it. Find me the guy who knows this stuff and can explain it to me so I can turn around and use that data to close a sale or answer a question. So I ideally understand that you can go to people across the aisle from you.
Absolutely. And you're slamming home a point to this whole conversation, which is hiring on dispersonality, right?
Right.
What you just said is exactly why you should, if you're in the hiring position, you should hire a counterpart to your lack of skills, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Offset your weaknesses.
And you alluded to that,
which is
don't
funny,
hire your mirror image.
Which is funny because
so huge.
if I need anybody, it's not an I can play that game very easily.
Oh,
it's not a C. I can get involved in that because I'll set goals, task driven in my head to why I need the data.
Does it all.
But the thing is what I can't do is have compassion.
That's true.
It's just I just don't, right? I don't like. Your dog died. Get over it. Shit.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I mean, you move. So when
wait a second. Hold on. Go ahead.
This is gonna really kind of clear out like how a D operates, right? We have spent a lot of time together, right? Formulating the show. What are we going to talk about? What are the topics? You know, we were kind of hanging out a lot before the show started, and then Clint moved to Houston for this new role.
How'd that hurt you?
It didn't really hurt me, but like we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, right? I was going to Lowe's, and he called me on a whim, and we were kind of catching up, and I was like, "Man, I miss you." And he's like, "I don't give a shit about you," and it's kind of like,
I meant that. I mean, not in a shitty way. I meant that.
My.
he's not
completely hurt for John now.
He's not people driven, right? So
Wow.
of course
Wait
he's
a
not
second.
spending all
I
the
was
time
about.
thinking
I'm
me.
gonna tie into that. Yes, he is, but it is such a tight concentric circle. It probably starts with immediate family.
No, not
and
even.
well,
Blood
meaning
doesn't mean shit.
Marine?
well, meaning like your
Marines?
children,
Yeah.
and the people.
There's some
that
terrible
you-
Marines though, bro. Come on, like let's be honest about
I
it.
didn't say all of them.
Okay,
But my point is, he has it. It's just such a tighter knit. So he needs less of that commitment and less of that to stimulate and fill that void in his brain and his limbic system.
But here's the deal, because Clint and I have had some conversations, and before you at me, right? I was in the Army, and I know there's some terrible Army people as well, right? So every service has got
I was
high
in the
performers
Navy.
and low
Everybody was
performers.
great.
Yeah.
To your comment earlier, the Marines are only going to agree with you. There's some terrible Marines. Yeah, we fucking are.
So yeah, there's good and bad on all sides of like everything, whether it's disc or military or whatever else, right? Just because you're part of a group doesn't mean you necessarily carry all the covenants that are part of that group, right? So there's terrible people in every section of everything. So
I agree.
I've totally forgot my second point because I got totally derailed
By
by something
Well,
Clint said.
Well, I hate that you were hurt by.
No, I wasn't hurt because here's the deal. Like, I know that is Clint being playful with me, right? Because if he didn't feel like he could be playful with me, he would lie and be like, yeah, man, I've been thinking about you too. I know he's not thinking about me.
To be
He's
honest
got
with you, the fact
70,000 other things on his plate right now.
we hate the ones we love.
Of course, right? Like,
You guys are in love. That's all I got to say. I'll
That's
stop
so-
there.
all the
Nan
time.
agrees with me.
I tell
Y'all
people
are
all
in
the
love.
time.
I love
I
that.
give
And I love it.
I give the
love it.
most shit to the people that I care about the most because it's like,
they can handle it.
yeah, exactly right. And like,
Stop
hey, look,
with your man love.
I'm here to
Let's
make you better,
pass
But-
right?
this.
That's how I think about it.
So I will tell you this is
Being
that
honest.
I love it. Okay.
in my world, I need Nan for that moral compass, right?
I agree
just
with
do.
that.
Like, you know, she's not gonna stand in front of me and say, you cannot do this without going through me. It's more of a.
Oh yes, she will. Sometimes
She might, right? Sometimes when you push her to the extreme,
Yeah.
right?
Because she
Depends
said
on-
that to you
depends on
before. I
topic,
mean,
yeah.
we've been out like exactly. We've
It
been
happened
at
earlier
dinner.
tonight out here in the lobby.
Absolutely, you do. Now, having said that, I don't think you recognize because we know each other so well.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
the
fair.
thing is like the 90% of the time, right? The 80% in Nan's actual life, she's going to stand there and give you guidance, and she's going to make you think about that shit, right? So that when you do screw up and you do have all this stuff, you have that to kind of recollect back on and learn from. But you need your opposite.
What I'm saying is, and people out there listening recognize this because this is the slide that D's do, knowing that they don't have what an S has,
Yep.
but they can appreciate it. And you just made that comment, and you went to Nan, not to John or not to. You probably loathe me more times than not.
Absolutely.
Silly bitch. But anyway, the point is that you recognize there's where you don't work very well, right? Where you can kind of get in the weeds because you don't do enough
That's the awareness, right?
And so you reach across and you say, if I could put somebody like that on my team or somehow connect to that, it would add benefit to what I do, and I would prosper from it. It would make sense in my own brain. It's not me bending over to admit a weakness.
Yeah.
You just fill a gap is what you do.
So this is step 1 out of 10, right? You find your adverse, right? And you say, obviously, in your own head, you say, I need you because you're the opposite of me and I need to fill that gap. Now, there is a ton of upfront expectations that you have to set with that person to say,
oh my God.
But
Yeah.
So true.
I don't,
So
but I
true.
don't think that's normal for everybody. You kind of say like, oh shit, well, no kidding. But like, I really don't
you
think
do
that's,
that too, though.
I do what?
You like slide to when you say the I, that I comes with serious expectations that maybe a lot of I's couldn't accomplish.
Yeah.
It's specific. It's
Like what?
dedicated. Your
And
conversations
I understand that
are
like
means.
what is a very specific question. So go ahead.
Well, what I'm saying is you see the I as a means to an end,
Mhm.
right? Whereas I's are just I's.
You
because that's-
No.
you being an I has been put in your data calculation.
it
to
has
to an
because you
end.
reach out for a reason.
Yeah.
I reach out just because
You
I
don't do it because you like to go to the.
He does. He does.
So
But-
it's a fine line, right? Because I wanted to argue with this point, but I sat and thought for a second while he was.
So
you
let
know,
me give you a scenario.
extending.
Let me give you this. If you go to a networking
with
event and you know there's no way to close any deals here, are you going to stay there and socialize till midnight?
Oh, I have a mission, right?
Because I've been on that mission
I
where
want-
you introduced
but
me
what-
to everybody in the room
Yeah.
But
for
what-
a reason.
But what
Yeah.
if you know in 2 minutes of that place that this isn't, I shouldn't be here.
So this becomes for me very specifically. This becomes very important because I have a goal when I go to a networking thing, right? And the goal differs depending upon what the group is, right? If I don't know anybody there, awesome. I'm looking for 2 cards,
Yeah.
right? I want 2 cards and then I can leave, right? Because I want to go home to my family, right? I want to go home and hang out with my kid. I love her to death and everything else. But when I don't have a plan, I feel obligated to hang out until it's over,
Wow.
right? And that's not a great spot for me.
No, that's not
right?
good for anybody.
Um,
You always should have a plan.
I'm out in 2 seconds.
Well, and that's the difference because my thing when I'm networking, it falls into 3 different categories. You're either a power networker and you know everybody in town, and I'm going to figure that out pretty quick, and then I want to know you and stick on you like glue because you know everybody in the room already. You're a center of influence or COI, meaning that we deal with the same kinds of people, but you're not a direct competitor, so it makes sense for me to spend a lot of time with you because there's going to be a lot of referrals back and forth. Or you're a direct client. I'm looking for 2 cards that fall into one of those 3 categories, and as soon as I have those cards, I can leave if I want to. If it's really awesome and fun, then I'll hang out. But when I don't have that goal, I'm just like wandering around of like, hey, let's drink more, right? Because
But when you say that to me, I'm like, I love that concept. I understand it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just have a hard time implementing
I have
because I'm like,
it-
there's a bar, there's alcohol.
I drive.
People
I
are
drive.
talking.
I drive everybody crazy because I think about everything like this, right?
I love it,
If you're
though.
gonna go buy a car, what's the minimum you want to pay? What's the maximum you want to pay? And are you willing to pay extra for like certain features? Like I think through this before I go talk to anybody. With hoodies to cars. This is how I think about it. And it's so crazy because I get
Does
so
it have
much-
a hood?
Well, no, hoodies, right? Because I do the same thing with a hoodie. But the thing is like
Nope.
I love our conversation so much because it really shows me like
our conversation or y'all's
No,
conversation?
Ours,
I'm
right?
just kidding.
You've
I'm
been
being
you've been
silly.
incredibly quiet tonight, right? And
I'm sorry.
we'll get to that in a second.
Oh,
Um,
When I'm finished,
Well, but
woman.
we do these interviews or these segments in batches, right? So because Clint's in Houston and it's a pain in the ass to get up here, I'm sure, and so we try to make it as easy as possible, and it's always validating whenever we come and we meet, because I'm like, oh yeah, you guys are all radically different than I am, and that's not a bad thing. But if you're not around that stuff constantly, right? If you build a vacuum around people who are just like you, man, like I can't imagine anything more dull.
Or limiting, right?
Yeah,
it's lim-
exactly.
That's a good word.
Yeah,
For it.
you're
That's
staying
a
in
better
this
word.
little box.
Which bothers me.
Yeah, of course it does.
Limited?
Your vocabulary
Well,
sucks.
you got a better word than me.
Oh,
Well, he's
sorry.
more well read.
I'm
Let
a
me go home and
wordsmith.
read the,
Wordsmith.
Yeah, words.
Hey, I've got an interesting
Hardly.
question, Nan. If
Yes,
you
sir.
were hiring,
are you only asking me this because?
You hadn't.
No.
Yeah,
I've been
okay.
waiting for him to shut the hell up so I can ask you this. If you're in a hiring position, you had to hire like your first salesperson, right? And that first interview you did was a high corner, 98% D, but he
My-
had a resume.
D's
right?
are my favorite.
Okay, so I'd like to hear that, right?
God, there's so many jokes. My head hurts right now. Are you kidding me?
Exactly. I was like, you are walking right into it.
I don't even know if we could post this. This is crazy. D's are her favorite. Can we change the intro? Nanette, D's are my favorite Fallman. Okay, sorry. Continue.
Did you want to switch cups? Team D. By the way, that's not what Team D means.
No, I
just so
really-
we're all clear.
No, okay, back.
Hey, you know what?
Are you all right?
God.
Angelo broke up, so
I'm
I'll
so
speak for a
Apparently,
minute.
apparently
No.
Nanette also
I
never left the
literally-
7th grade locker room.
Exactly.
Like, I'm
That's-
telling you right now.
That's my theory. You
Hashtag
guys
Team D just went
Fi-
viral.
fight it as hard as you will.
No, I truly believe you do have to. You work better with your opposite. Oh my gosh, I have tears. Okay.
You're
And
welcome.
so, okay, wait a minute. I'm not gonna be able to.
Do you want me to finish this for you?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So-
she
No,
fell right
So-
into it.
so
Stop the
you're-
madness.
But how do you deal with all the things that are going to come
All
up?
the D's.
Well, yeah. How are you going to deal with that D-ness? Good Lord, can
No.
we get out of the gutter? So, how do you deal with the fact that they're so radically different than you?
So-
Because look, right? If you try to coach Clint, right? Let's say you hired Clint tomorrow.
Does an S ever coach a D?
No.
Don't they
look,
have to?
But I'm
They
super
have
interested.
to. They have
Can I
to. They have to
ask-
control and
can I say
modify them.
something?
Hold on. She raised her hand.
Yeah, I need to start raising my hand or
No.
something. 'Cause what I wanted to say is that, Clint, remember the first time we sat down and talked? We were
It was magical.
Come on, look at this. This has got to quit.
This is
no, it was.
This is
so,
wrong on
I know,
so many
I
levels.
apologize.
Yeah.
It was so good because he was
That's the only time Clint's ever been told that. No, normally
Hold
it's like,
on.
I'm glad you made
Hold
that
on.
about you.
I know this is going to surprise some people, but the I is the voice of reason.
Gosh.
Wow,
I'm so sorry.
wow, the sexual tension just went through the roof in this,
No,
all, and
I-
I had nothing to do with any
That
of
is
it.
not true.
Disappointment
Talk
on my
about
end.
matching and marrying.
And man,
Sorry,
Clint
sorry.
is owning
No.
you, girl. You need to shake this
Oh,
off.
my Lord.
That's pretty typical.
Clint.
Man,
Okay,
shake this off, girl. Get in the game.
would you be quiet? Honest to goodness. Okay, Clint, let's.
We have a flustered S right here on our
Look how
hands.
red her face is.
every
If you're not
single-
watching on YouTube,
You guys got to hear. You got to see the video.
No,
I don't know what
every
timestamp it is,
single
but get here.
thing- Every single
More
thing.
like 40 Shades of Red.
Okay, so let's get back to what was the original.
She's so.
doesn't even remember. Doesn't even remember. You're
My
hiring
heart
someone.
is fluttering so hard.
Hold on.
That is not true.
Hold on.
I'm
The C's
telling
going to coach you up, right? You're making your first hire, right? Who do you want to hire for a sales
Other
call?
than Clint.
Other than, I mean,
If you can't hire Clint, who do you hire?
I'm not going to talk. I've got enough talk. Okay, it's just what we've talked about all evening. You want the opposite because then you have the perfect little formula. If you hire one person that's exactly like you, then you just have. Well, and I think that's arguing with what you said about your hire. So
Oh, really?
you know, I don't
No.
want to.
No,
Don't be apologetic.
it's actually
Yeah,
It's
you're
actually
allowed to
to
have your
what-
opinion.
yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, you really have to find the things that don't work in you, and you either fix yourself, which is really fucking hard to do.
Yeah.
Just overall clear about that, right? That takes
Right.
years and years of training and failure, right?
Or better yet, if you've had some success, then it's harder to change because you've just gotten into being you.
Hate it, love it, do what you will with this, but you know, I that's kind of the Trump factor, right? Hire people to do this.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm serious to a point. Like, I can't go do a bazillion jobs. So you got to hire the people that fit those jobs to do that for you to make money. I just think that's part of the equation.
Right.
That's fair. Let's throw it down. Paul, Team P, throw it down. Man, that's why he gets paid the big bucks.
Dude, seriously, pays
Clinton.
like $600 an hour to hit that freaking button. Put it on my iPhone, bro. I'll do it here. Jesus, man.
Clint, Team D for hiring with Disc.
Look,
What you
yeah,
got?
Yeah, this kind of went off the rails, but I'll tell you this. I think that it's really important to look at the skill set that you need, really evaluate that, right? If these technical things matter, like 100% have to be there, you have to do that first. But then disc personality or any personality training, just looking at somebody, talking to them, getting along with them, speaking the same language is a resume separator, right? That's what this tool is. It is not a 100% hire basis, but neither is a resume. And I don't think you should hire that way. I think you should hire people that fit in your team. So for me, I use DISC as just simply that, a resume separator.
Okay. Al, Team I?
I completely agree because I do
Next.
have to sit in
Hey,
the same
throw it down, bro.
in
Let
the-
him talk.
in the same shoes. So I second that. It's a separator. It's a
Okay.
clarifier. I mean, we hear their words. Now we see what they look like on paper outside of their resume,
Mhm.
and we match those three factors together: the resume that they gave me with their skill set, who they were as we spoke face to face, and then DISC tends to tie both of those together or expose deficiencies on their paper and their personality.
All right. Nanette, Team S or healthcare, whichever one you want to talk about.
Well, a bit redundant, but the same thing. I think and if you want to succeed in business, you need to be able to work with a D. You need to know how to work with D's, even I's, S's, and C's. You need the whole team. You know, it's the, in Christianity we talk about the body. You need the whole body. Well, I think you need the whole disc. I think it really is vital
Okay.
to succeed.
Team C.
For Team C, for sales roles specifically, I don't think that DISC is a black or white deal, right? Everybody brings their own crap to the table, right? I mean, I'm going to be very, very strong in certain things, and I'm going to be very, very weak in others. And those segments change depending upon if it's a D, an I, an S, or a C as we go around the table. So, because here's the deal: anyone who runs me through a DISC assessment and they're just looking at it as like a pass or fail kind of thing, no one's going to hire me, right? But I think you all three know me and know what I'm like good at and capable of doing and what kind of numbers I can put up, right? So it's not that black or white. Now, the thing that you need to know about is that if you're going to use this kind of assessment, you need to have some base level knowledge about how these things show up in the roles that you're trying to hire for. I think in other roles, it's a little bit easier. It's a little bit more black or white. I'm totally open to being wrong about that, but I think of sales very specifically, and this might be a bias about like my own performance, is that I want to talk about you're going to be really, really strong here. You're going to struggle here. How are we going to handle that whenever you struggle in these certain situations? Because, Clint is not going to be super good at, taking the fall if something goes bad, right? And sometimes that's necessary. The I is not going to be super great about holding people accountable to the agreements that they make. The S is the same way. The C is willing to just die on any hill that they feel is, I'm right and you're wrong kind of thing, right? And so because of those things, those dynamics show up differently. So I don't look at it as like a black or white assessment. I'm like, cool, here's where you're going to be really, really good. Here's where you're going to struggle. How should we handle these kinds of things, right? To make it more collaborative, because I think that hiring is a very collaborative movement or moment in time. And I think when you're hiring a salesperson, you gotta understand where they're going to struggle and be able to build accountability and processes around those things where they're going to be weak. So that way it's not yes or no, right? Because once again, right, if it was just pure disc, I wouldn't be here at this table. Right? I wouldn't be successful. Like, you know, when I got my disc assessment back, the guy who ran it on me, right, and talked about it with me and with Jeff, who kind of took a shot on me after Al, was like, hey, I don't know if this guy's going to be successful or not. That doesn't mean that I wasn't successful. It just means that you got to dig a little bit harder to figure out the intrinsic motivation and what's going to keep them going and things like this. And I think you can find that whenever you dig hard enough. So this is not meant to be a black or white kind of thing as far as hiring, as far as I'm concerned, right? You got to understand what parts of the role are going to be strong and easy and what parts are going to be hard and how you figure that out. So for me personally, I kind of take a different approach, and that's probably very personal because I am not a normal sales guy, right? So it's kind of my opinion for Team C, and really just for people in general, right? People can adapt, right? Like my disc has changed very significantly from 2012 when I took it the first time to like when I took it the last time I took it. I've shifted around and moved based upon what was necessary in the roles that I'm in. Everybody else is going to do the same thing as well. So don't look at it as a black or white thing, but figure out you're going to suck at this.
But it is a snapshot in time for
Absolutely.
who that person is
For
now.
sure.
Not that people can't change or not that people don't evolve.
Mhm.
But evolution tends to be about a decade process in our lives.
For sure.
20s to 30s, 30s to 40s, 40s
Absolutely.
to 50s.
You know?
And I've lived it. So
And I remember very clearly, right? I worked for Al for 18 months and then I left. I decided I didn't want to be in medical devices anymore, but I still saw Al all the time at martial arts classes and everything else. And Al was coming up and being like, man, you're different. Like what has made you different? And it's like all of this stuff. And you know, he was like, cool, I want to learn more about that.
yeah,
And
which
that's
is why I got involved with it.
yeah, that's how we ended up here at this table talking about these kinds of things. But none of that would have happened if certain, right?
Well, I will tell you this. None of that would have happened if you had stayed in the same place.
For sure.
And I had stayed. We evolved.
Yeah.
Right?
Because I came back and I was like, hey, I think there's some good stuff over here. And you said the same thing that I'd been thinking before I'd gone through the process, right? Around like, hey, I don't think we need that. I just think we need more time and we need more doors, right? Which is kind of where salespeople fall, right? Super easy to lie to yourself as a salesperson. I'm not saying that Al does that more than anybody else, but it's super easy to like kind of hide your head in the sand around your numbers and your close rate and your hit rate, as Clint talks about. So you got to be super honest with yourself. And if you're not successful, go figure it out. Like start with an assessment and go find a coach. Go find someone to work with who's going to be able to like help you with this stuff. Most companies treat sales training as product training. Product training is the easy part.
Yeah.
Sales training is the hard part. How do you have good conversations? How do you ask hard questions? How do you move somebody through or out, right? And how do you not let that bog you down and keep you from like moving forward? That's the hard stuff. Arguably way harder than this screw does this and this screw does this and this is where you use this and this is where you use that. I mean, shit, you could almost walk into an OR with like a clipboard, right? If you're really, really smooth and like have all that information.
You can do
there
a
at
surgery
hands.
over the phone. I can do one over the
Yeah.
phone. But you can't sell a product line to a doctor, right, without some product knowledge and then rapport that you build and you sell into.
Yeah. I would argue the soft skills involved in selling are way harder than the product knowledge, right? And I don't think enough companies put enough value on the soft skills.
Well, it's the science versus the art, like I said.
Absolutely,
right?
for sure. Awesome. All right, everybody, we're gonna wrap up.
And delete a lot of that.
we don't censor ourselves here, so you're getting
Nan's
the real
giggles
deal.
or Nan's giggles.
Yeah, this is the real
And-
deal, right? Paul doesn't let us edit because he doesn't like to edit because he's lazy, and that's fine.
Clint being
No,
a dick,
he's not.
Clint being a dick.
This is the real deal. We edit nothing. This is like
Who we are.
pure at the moment in the conversation. So if you're listening to this and you've been listening for a while, you should notice a difference between how Clint communicates and Al and Nanette and myself, right? As the C personality type. And that's not a bad thing, right? Just like when you're talking to prospects, they're going to be in different sections themselves. You got to be able to shift and move and give them what they need, or else you're never getting a yes. So if you guys are following, please follow us on social media. If you leave a review, we'll give you a shout out. So please do. If you know anybody else in sales and they're struggling, if they don't know where they are, please share this with them. And follow us on social media. Everything is at Sales Throwdown. If you have not taken one of these assessments and you don't want to go down the path of, like Clint was talking about earlier, of doing one of these free ones online, we have them. We can either just do you through the assessment and you get your results. It's about 36 pages. Or we have another level to where one of us will hop on the phone with you and go over your results with you about like, hey, here's where you're going to struggle, here's where you're going to be good. So if you're interested in that, if you know anybody else, please share this with them. If you want to do the assessment, email us assessments@salesthrowdown.com. If you want us to come sit in on your sales meeting or talk to your team about this kind of stuff, please reach out.
And let me add to this.
Yeah.
If you take an assessment and you'd like to talk personally with any one of us,
For
meaning
sure.
if you connect with somebody more than anybody else, put that in some of the text that you're putting out there, and we'll gladly get on the phone with you. You know, it won't be a long interview, but we'll talk and we'll answer any questions.
Yeah, right. It's about 90 minutes. You know, we're going to go over the assessment with you. We're going to talk about where you're weak and where you're strong, where your motivators and demotivators are, so that way you've got some knowledge. And if you want to do that with the person in your corner, let us know. We're totally down to do that. I do kind of the majority of them because I've got the most time out of the three of us here or the four of us here at the table. But you know, if you're on Team I and you think you know that and you take the assessment and you want to talk to Al, let us know. We will put Al on the phone with you and you guys can tell stories and not get anything else accomplished.
If you want to outpace the rest of this crew, give me a shout.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
on the same token, like if you think you're a high D, right, and you think this is bullshit, I don't need to do this, I would challenge a conversation with you between myself to say, here's what I've gotten from it and gained, and nobody needs to know. Use this as a tool to hey, listen to this. Use it as a tool to manipulate the shit out of everybody else. It's fun.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, we'll see everybody next time. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see everybody soon. Cheers.
Bye-bye.